what a game. Holy shit, that was good. Like, I want to keep playing Donkey Kong Bonanza right now, but I have to do this video, so I'm going to have to take a break from doing the 100% so I can record this video for you guys. But what a game. I don't want to just gush about how much I love the game. I want to give an honest and real review, so that way if you're on the fence about getting the game or you're not sure, you can have my thoughts and opinions on it, and maybe that'll help change a mind or two. Although if I'm being super real, if you have a Switch 2, you're probably going to get this game. Like, the only other first-party Nintendo game that's come out for the Switch 2 specifically is Mario Kart World, which is amazing, but it's been a couple months and we don't have much else. So, like, you're probably getting it if you have a Switch 2. The question, though, is this a system seller? Like, is this the reason to get your Switch 2? Questions like that are important to answer. And I don't know if I'll have a good answer for you, but at least my opinion and takes on the game might help to convince you whether or not you want to get a Switch 2 for a game like this. So I want to go over a non-spoiler review of the game, but I absolutely have to talk about spoilers before we end the video. So I'll make sure all the spoilers are in the second half. That way most people can just watch the first half of the review without any spoilers, and when we get to spoilers, I will warn you beforehand if you want to go in blind, which frankly you should. There's some really good reveals in this game. But as far as the spoiler-free talk goes, the first thing I feel so compelled to talk about is the music. The music in this game is amazing. It's some of the best we've gotten in a single-player game like this. I think one of the only soundtracks that actually rivals this game in recent memory of Nintendo is Mario Kart World, believe it or not. Not only the music of the levels of this game is amazing, but each of your transformations have their own song. Obviously, I won't get too far into the transformations for spoiler reasons, but they all have their own individual song, and they're so good, each and every one of them. I ended my playthrough with a ranking of them, and even though I did have a favorite and least favorite, they were all so very good. My favorite one is Ostrich, by the way. But music aside, how's the actual game, right? Well, since it's a platforming collectathon, I thought, frankly, the most important thing to talk about is the controls themselves. And as it looked like in all the trailers, the controls in this game are perfect. They are begging to be broken. It's very similar to Odyssey in that way. I mean, there's going to be a lot of comparisons drawn to Odyssey. It's the same dev team and you can really feel it. And that's not a negative. Odyssey's a great game. But it's similar to Odyssey, you have this moveset that, at the bare minimum, is like, okay, these are all kind of like, it's fairly basic but fun mechanics you can use. And then when you start chaining them together, you start seeing how busted you can make this game. Even with no practice and no like speedrunning experience, you can exploit a lot of this game, and it feels like you're encouraged to. Several times throughout the game, you can see the intended path ahead of you, but if you're a little creative and you use the abilities the game itself gives you, you can do something completely different. And you can see that no better than in speedruns. I love seeing all the new insane any percent runs for this game. That being said, most of the time the intended path is the most rewarding path. The actual intended game here is really fun. But if you see this whole big like platforming section, sure, you can do it, but if you want to, you can use some of the abilities to get high up and glide around it or something. But like I said, the actual levels here are really good, which is something I was admittedly worrying about. Moving on to the level layout of the game, I was worried because you can destroy the entire environment, most of the level layouts would be fairly boring. Think like a normal hill with a cave in it, because you can dig, so why bother doing anything else? But I am happy to say that I was wrong, that prediction was incorrect, and thank goodness it was. There's a lot of really compelling platforming sections throughout the game, and not just in the side objective areas, but in the main world, even with your insane moveset. They really push what Donkey Kong can do to his limit, and in doing so, tests the player by giving them this amazing toolbox and making them use their tools. Even more than that, you're almost always rewarded for thinking outside the box and doing some extra exploration. Sometimes it's actual bananas, the main objective of the game, and other times it's just some bonus gold. A perfect example is in this very first sub-area that I did. These platforming sub-areas typically have 3 bananas to collect. One, sometimes both of the bananas are for the objective. When it's just one objective banana, usually there's a side path banana. And there's usually one extra hidden banana somewhere in the sub-area. So when I was looking around, I found this hidden banana up top. And that could have been the end of it. That's the 100% exploration that you need to do. But I noticed there was another ledge up there that I couldn't climb to, but there was nearby dirt, which, since it's a soft material, you can technically build with. So I did. It took like 10 minutes because I wasn't really used to the controls yet, but eventually I made a little dirt staircase and got up top. And there wasn't a 4th banana or anything crazy, but there was a lot of bonus gold, which is sort of the perfect reward for this. If there was a banana, they would have been forcing every player who wants to 100% the game to make a dirt staircase for 5 minutes, which isn't super fun or compelling. You never really need to use the dirt building mechanic, which is fine because it's not a very great mechanic and it's really clunky to use. But it's fun that they gave you that option. And if you want to do that for whatever reason, you do still get some side compensation that nobody's missing out on, but it's nice to have. That's the strongest plus for this game, I think, is the absolute freedom that it gives you. Do you just want to play the base game and not do any side objectives? You can. Do you want to do that while skipping a lot of the challenges by doing harder platforming around them? You can if you want to. Really, none of this game is required besides the main objectives. You can even skip major upgrades to your moveset if you want to try and go without them. Like the transformations, there are a couple that you can beat the game without. Now, it's very difficult and you basically need to be a speedrunner, but there's no point in the game where it checks to make sure you have them. If you have the skill to get past without them, then you don't need to get them. But if you want to take the time and collect everything and do everything, there is so much to this game, and all of it rewards you as you go, with new outfits and new unlockables. The skill point system being another perfect example of this. If you're only doing the main objectives, you're not going to get a lot of skill points, which is fine if you just want to focus on the main story, but some sections might be a bit harder if your health was never upgraded. However, there's 777 listed bananas in my collectible thing. I haven't got them all, so if there's more, I don't know, but that's how many the game says there are. And I don't know if a single banana is actually required. At least I can't think of many. But if you take the time to collect more and more, you'll get upgrades to your moveset, and some of them are really good upgrades, which open more interesting ways you can combine your moveset. One of my favorite upgrades is making the turf surf ability last longer and go over water. It's a really fun way to move around, and I think technically the fastest. All in all, this is one of the most freeing platformers I've ever played, which kind of makes the Switch 2 for 2 in games that let you play in a very freeing way. Granted, that's more so the controls of Mario Kart World. Nintendo's actually being very strict about how you approach their game, but there's a lot of choice in how you drive. And in Donkey Kong Bonanza, there's a lot of choice in how you play. So I would love to see if this is an ongoing trend for Switch 2 and other games are going to be equally as freeing. As far as the story goes, obviously I can't talk too much about it because of spoilers, but what I can say is the characters here are amazing. Pauline is so genuinely charming and sometimes funny, and she is a treat to have as a companion throughout the game. It's one of the first times a single-player game has had a companion character that I've genuinely enjoyed the presence of. In no small part to the way her and DK interact, it's adorable. Like, here's an example. Very, very minor spoiler, you would see this within the first hour of the game, but every time you beat a layer, they do this little dance. And like, look at it, it's so cute. And Donkey Kong himself is a surprisingly expressive and knowable character for what is a big monkey. And it's definitely helped by his new design. He's just very pleasantly goofy. And I also love all the villains, but we'll save them for the spoiler section. Speaking of, we're about at the end of the non-spoiler section, so if you want my final spoiler-free verdict, this game is 1000% worth it. If you're able to pick it up, genuinely it's one of the best platformers I've played in a long time. But now we're going to touch on some spoilers. To tell the truth, I'm still working my way through the post-game. I'm not actually done yet, but what I've played so far is so incredibly fun. It's like they took the dark side of the moon from Odyssey and spread it out throughout the entire game. Not to mention, it's just really fun to go back throughout the levels and start 100%ing the game, especially with the elephant upgrade. I don't typically go for 100% in games outside of like Crash and Spyro, some of my favorites, but it is so satisfying to use the elephant upgrade in this game that I can't help but 100% it, at least as far as artifacts and bananas go. Frankly, it's so crazy they give you the elephant upgrade so early in the game. It's such an insanely busted ability. But to now touch on those villains, I absolutely adore Voidco. We don't get that much time with them, but already they're some of my favorite villains Nintendo's ever written. Void Kong is such a lovable, detestable piece of shit, it's perfect. He feels like a little rat at all times, and I love him for it. But frankly, the stars of the show of Voidco are his employees, Grumpy Kong and Poppy Kong. Because, holy shit, I love the idea of villains who are literally just doing their job with no malice. They're doing what they were paid for, and they don't have any grudges against Donkey Kong at all. I was so thrown off when we beat Grumpy Kong for the first time, and he's just sitting there afterwards. Like, I was like, why is he, did the game bug? But no, you approach him and he's like, damn, you got me. I'll get you next time though. And that's it. And you're like, that's weird how pleasant he's being. But then you talk to Poppy Kong later and she's like, oh, I'm not gonna fight you now. I already did my job. I don't work overtime for free. It's such a funny dynamic. And speaking of villains, an incredibly fun reveal that K. Rool was chilling down there the whole time. What an insane final boss level and fight, by the way. Like, going to the core, fighting him at the core, fighting him all the way back up, and more than anything, the new Donk City section was insane. It was so cool to be climbing over these sinking buildings, desperately trying to make your way to K. Rool for one more final fight. What a great moment. And I do love a credit fake out sequence. It's always a fun time. Not to mention the fact that we've been fighting these weird golden skeleton enemies the whole way down, and then once we get to K. Rool, we find out that all of them were Kremlings. That's awesome. Like, I had a feeling the alligator skeletons were Kremlings because it's an alligator skeleton, but like the bees, the hog things, like everything was a Kremling. That's so interesting. I really want to think about like what that means for the game. But more than anything, this game does something really impressive because it makes me nostalgic for a game I've never played. I've only ever played one other Donkey Kong game in my entire life, and that's Donkey Konga, the music game for the GameCube. Amazing game, by the way. I 100%ed it. But not only is this game filled with references to Donkey Kong's history and Rare, but it evokes such a nostalgic feeling by playing it at all. This game was so good, I'm tempted to go back and play Donkey Kong 64 for the first time. That's the testament to how much I've enjoyed this game. That, and I'm going to 100% it, which again, I don't really do for collectathons that are this dense. I love 100%ing a collectathon. Like I said, Spyro and Crash, some of my favorites. I replay their trilogies at least once a year, and I don't feel right playing a Spyro or Crash game without 100%ing it. But that's usually the most dense I can handle. The moment the objectives get into the hundreds, I start kind of dipping out. But again, this game has 777 bananas, and I'm going to be chipping away at that number for a while. I think about like 450 right now, and this has become my new morning game where I just play through it. So all in all, is Donkey Kong Bonanza worth the price tag? Yes, times 100. It is such a good and dense and replayable game. And replayable is another key thing here. Not only do you have the separate save slots, but a lot of this game is just learning how to use DK. And sure, the abilities make things easier, but I kind of want to try an any percent run. Probably glitchless because I'm not a speedrunner or anything, but I kind of wanted to see just casually how fast could I run through this game because it's just a fun game to play. But yeah, game's good. If you want to watch last week's video, you can find that right here. Until next time, as always, thank you for watching RyeTwost. Of all the YouTube channels, it's the second one. Stay toasty, slices.